The Elephant and His Friends. Dembo the elephant woke up one morning and took a tour in the forest looking for friends. He ran into a monkey and asked him, "Can we be friends, monkey?"
"You're too big, and you can't swing on trees like me, so I can't be your friend,"
said the monkey. Then he left. Dembo carried on until he came upon a rabbit and asked him if he could be his friend.
"You're too big to enter my burrow. You can't be my friend,"
said the rabbit. So Dembo carried on looking for a friend. Then he met a frog and asked him if he could be his friend. "You're too big and heavy, and you can't jump like me. I'm sorry, you can't be my friend," said the frog. Then Dembo met a snake and asked him to be his friend, and he received the same answer, that he's too big and cannot be a snake's friend. The next day, all the animals in the forest were running in fear. Dembo stopped a bear and asked him what was happening. The bear said that a tiger was attacking every animal in sight. Dembo wanted to save the weak animals, so he went to the tiger and said, "Please, sir, leave my friends alone. Don't eat them." The tiger didn't listen to Dembo and told him to mind his own business. So the elephant kicked the tiger and frightened him. The tiger ran away. Dembo then returned to the other animals and told them what had happened. When they heard how the elephant had saved their lives, they all said in harmony, "Your size is just right to become our friend." The animals realized that a friend is not measured by his shape, size, or color, but by loyalty and love. The Lion and the Smart Rabbit. Once upon a time, a lion was bored of hunting and chasing animals to catch his prey when hungry. So he called all the animals and issued an order. "Every day, one of you must come to be my prey." All the animals were afraid, so they held a meeting and decided the rabbit should go first, because he was the smallest and weakest among them. The rabbit was terrified. On his way to the lion's den, he came across an old well. He looked into the well, which was deep and dangerous. The rabbit made a sound, and it echoed back, so he had an idea to save himself from the lion. The lion was angry because none of the animals had come yet. The rabbit approached slowly and scared. The lion roared and said, "Why are you late?" "On my way here, Your Majesty, another lion chased me. I barely ran away from him, so I can sacrifice my life to you, my king," replied the terrified rabbit. The lion was pleased with the rabbit, but the thought of another lion in the forest made him angry. The lion roared, "Do you know where that lion lives?" "Yes, Your Majesty. Please come with me," replied the rabbit. The rabbit took the lion to the old well and said, "Your Majesty, that lion lives in this well." The lion looked inside the well and roared loudly. He heard another roar, which was his own echo, but he didn't realize it and thought it was the other lion's roar. He jumped into the well, and that was the end of the lion. The rabbit was able to save his own life, and all the animals were happy also to be safe. The animals learned that anyone who is unfair can be awfully strong, but one must use the strength of one's mind, as it is undefeatable. The Dog and the Shadow. Once upon a time, there was a hungry dog searching for food. After a long, exhausting search, the dog smelled a delicious aroma. So he went closer and found a piece of meat. He was delighted, picked it up, and decided he would return home to eat and rest. But to reach his house, he had to cross a wooden bridge over a lake. While he was passing, he looked at the lake and saw his shadow reflected on the water's surface. He thought there was another dog carrying another piece of meat. The dog thought for a moment and decided to take the other piece of meat as well. So he attacked his reflection in the water, and the piece of meat he was carrying fell into the water, sank deeply, and disappeared. The dog came out of the water wet and unhappy after he lost his piece of meat and returned home with no food at all because of his greed. The dog learned that being content and satisfied leads to happiness. Greed leads to misery. The Honest Woodcutter. A long time ago, there was a poor woodcutter living in a small village. He did his job well and was honest and loyal. He headed to the nearby forest every morning to cut the trees down, then gather the wood he cut, and take it to the village to sell and earn money. He hardly earned a living, but was content with simple blessings. One day, when he was cutting the trees near the river, his axe fell from his hand into the river. The woodcutter searched for the axe in the water, but couldn't find it. He didn't have another axe, so he burst into tears because he would not be able to work any more. A genie appeared while he was crying and asked, "Why are you crying?" "My axe disappeared in the river, and I don't have another one, and I can't work without it," said the woodcutter. "Don't worry, I'll help you find it," said the genie. The genie dove into the river and came out holding a golden axe. "Is this your axe?" he asked the woodcutter. "No, my axe is made of steel," replied the woodcutter. So the genie disappeared and quickly returned with a silver axe. The woodcutter once again denied the axe was his and said, "My axe is made of steel." The genie dove into the river again and quickly showed up holding the woodcutter's steel axe. "Is this your axe?" he again inquired. "Yes, that's my axe," replied the woodcutter. The woodcutter was happy, and he thanked the genie for lending him a hand. "Why didn't you take the golden or silver axes when I offered them to you?" asked the genie. "Because they're not mine, and perhaps someone else lost them," said the woodcutter. The genie was touched with the woodcutter's honesty, and offered him the golden and silver axes in appreciation of his honesty, for loyalty and honesty attract blessings. The Miser and the Gold. Uncle Melvin lived alone in a big house with a large garden. He was a miser who owned a lot of gold coins and never spent any of them. He kept them in a hole in the garden covered with some stones. Every day before he went to sleep, he would go to the hole where he hid his coins and counted the stones covering them to make sure the gold was secure in the hole. He repeated this every day and never spent any of the hidden gold. One day a thief found out about the miser, so he watched him until he learned the gold's location. The thief waited for the miser to return home, and at nightfall he went to the secret hole and took the gold and ran away. The next day, Melvin the miser found the stones on the hole scattered and the gold missing. He screamed out loud, "Oh!" His neighbor heard his screaming and asked, "What happened?" When the neighbor found out what had happened, he asked, "Why didn't you save the money inside your house? It would have been easier to reach the money when you needed to buy something." "Buy something?" said Melvin. "I never used the gold to buy anything. I would never spend it." When the neighbor heard Melvin, he threw a stone in the hole and said, "If that is the case, keep this stone instead of the gold. It's as useless as the gold you lost." Uncle Melvin learned that by being stingy, you're only saving money for others to spend. The Hat Seller and the Monkeys. There was a hat seller in the city who went to the market every day to sell hats, and he returned home with what was left to sell them the next day. One day after he sold some hats, he passed by a forest on his way home. The weather was hot, and he was exhausted. He decided to sit under a big tree to rest in the shade for a while, and quickly fell asleep. There were a lot of monkeys on the top of the big tree. They saw the hat seller sleeping under the tree and wearing a hat. They took the opportunity and came down and took the hats from his bag and put them on, then climbed the tree again. The hat seller woke up to the sounds of the monkeys around him. He was shocked when he saw his bag was empty. He looked for his hats and saw some of the monkeys wearing them. The hat seller tried to think of a way to get his hats back. He sat in place, thinking, and banged his own forehead, waiting for an idea to show up in his head. Meanwhile, he noticed the monkeys were imitating all his moves. He banged his forehead again, and so did the monkeys. Just then, he took his hat off, so the monkeys took their hats off as well. Finally, he had an idea. He threw his hat on the ground, and the monkeys followed along and threw their hats down. The hat seller gathered all the hats and returned them to his bag. Then he happily returned home. The Foolish Donkey. William, the salesman, used to go to the market every day to sell the salt he carried on his donkey's back. On their way, they had to cross a small bridge to reach the market. The donkey was lazy, stubborn, always tired, and never wanted to carry anything. One day, the donkey suddenly fell off the bridge into the river, and the salt dissolved in the water, making the bag very light to carry. The donkey came out of the river happy for not having to carry anything, while the salesman returned home sad. The next day, while they were crossing the bridge, the donkey jumped into the river again. He decided to repeat this trick every day. The salt salesman realized the donkey's trick each time they crossed the bridge and decided to teach him a lesson. The next day, the salesman put a bag of cotton on the donkey's back, then headed to the market, then waited for him to play his trick when they crossed the bridge. When the donkey did his trick and jumped into the water on purpose, the cotton absorbed the water, and the weight on his back increased. The donkey struggled to get out of the river and get to the market with the wet cotton. The donkey learned his lesson and never played the trick again, and the salesman was very happy that his idea had worked. The Wolf and the Lamb. In a green valley, the sun was shining. The grass was plentiful, and the flock was feeding and enjoying both nature and the delicious grass. There was one small sheep who loved to eat a lot. Over time, he wandered here and there looking for fresh, delicious grass, and was unaware that he had strayed far from his flock. The hungry wolf was closely following him, waiting for the shepherd to lose sight of him. When the little sheep realized he was lost and far away from the flock, he decided to go back and join them again. Meanwhile, the wolf suddenly came out of hiding. The sheep was terrified, certain that he wouldn't get away from the wolf, so he thought of a trick that might work. He asked the wolf, "Are you going to eat me?" "Yes, I am," said the wolf. "Can you wait for a while? I've eaten a lot of grass, and my tummy is full of grass. If you eat me now, you'll feel as if you're eating grass. So you better wait until it's digested," said the lamb. The wolf thought for a moment and then said, "Fine, I'll wait. I've been watching you for a while, and I can wait some more." Yes, the lamb's trick worked. But now what? Time passed quickly, and the wolf was getting ready again to kill the lamb. But the lamb stopped him again, saying, "Dear wolf, please wait some more. The grass hasn't been digested yet. If you eat me now, you will find a lot of grass in my tummy. Let me dance. That will make it digest easier." The wolf was annoyed, but agreed to wait a bit longer so he could eat delicious meat, free of the taste of grass. The little lamb madly danced for a while. Then he suddenly stopped. "Why have you stopped?" asked the wolf. "I can't dance without any music. Do you see this bell around my neck? Can you untie it and shake it hard so I can dance quickly to digest the grass in my tummy?" asked the lamb. The wolf was ready to do anything to eat the lamb, so he untied the bell on the lamb's neck and shook it as hard as he could. Meanwhile, the shepherd was looking for the little lamb and heard the bell ringing. He saw the wolf and the lamb, so he ran toward the wolf with his stick. When the wolf saw the shepherd, he ran away. The little lamb was saved by his own cleverness. The little lamb learned from this situation that even someone weak can win over the mighty using tricks and common sense. The baby camel and his mother. One morning, a seal woke up and reflected on the other animals and found that he looked totally different. So he went and asked his mother, "Mommy, why do we have a hump?" "Our humps are for storing water, so we can live in the desert," replied his mother. "Okay, and why do we have rounded feet, Mommy?" said a seal. The mother replied, "Because they help us walk comfortably in the desert. These legs also help us move around in the sand." "Okay, but why are our eyelashes long?" asked the seal. "To protect our eyes from the desert dust and sand," replied his mother. The baby camel thought for a while and said, "So we have a hump to store water for desert journeys, rounded hooves to keep us comfortable when we walk in the desert sand, and long eyelashes to protect us from sand and dust during a desert storm. Then what are we doing in this zoo?" The mother was stunned and was unable to answer her child's question. Your strengths, skills, and knowledge are useless if you aren't in the right place. The Wise Man. Once upon a time there was a wise man living in a small village with poor villagers who knew him for his wisdom. The villagers had been coming to him to complain about their situation and poverty, while others looked for answers to their problems. And the wise man listened to them all and generously helped them. But the villagers were always complaining about the same problems that they had faced in their lives every single time. One day, the wise man gathered them and told them a joke, and everybody laughed. Then he told them the same joke again, and only a few of them smiled. When he told the joke for the third time, nobody laughed. The wise man smiled and said, "You can't laugh at the same joke over and over. So why are you always crying over the same problem? Worrying won't solve your problems. Instead, it wastes your time and energy. You must let go of complaining and face your problems so you can come up with a suitable solution." 3 sons and a bundle of sticks. In a small village lived an old man with his 3 sons. The 3 sons worked hard and did most of the work to help their father. Yet they always fought. The old man tried to work it out between them and unite them, but in vain. And even though the villagers appreciated their hard work, they made fun of their constant fighting. Months passed by, and the old man became sick and felt his end had come. He gathered his sons around him to give them some advice, asking them to stay united. But they didn't listen to him. So he decided to teach them a practical lesson to make them forget their disagreements and stay united as brothers should be. The old man asked one of his sons to fetch a bundle of sticks and asked each one of them to take one stick and break it. The sons agreed, and each one took a stick and easily broke it. Once again they started fighting about who was first. "My dear sons, the task isn't over yet. Now all of you should break the bundle all together," said the old man. The sons agreed and tried to break the bundle of sticks. Even though they tried as hard as they could, they weren't able to break the whole bundle and failed in the task. The old man said, "My dear sons, look. You can easily break one stick into pieces, but you can't break the whole bundle together. So if you stay united, no one will be able to hurt you. But if you fight among yourselves and separate, anyone can easily defeat you. Therefore, I'm asking you to always stay united and cooperative." The three sons now understood the strength of unity and the weakness of separation, and they promised their father to stay united no matter what.